Hello, my name is Vibha, and I'm the head of the outreach committee of Eureka. And Eureka is an online scientific newsletter run by the students of NMIMS Mumbai, the School of Science. And it was founded with the motto to celebrate scientific discoveries. We are so glad to start the volume 6 with the first issue that has the theme of marine biology. And we are very enlightened that we have your Miss Pooja Pednekar here to enlighten us with your expertise today. So, ma'am, can you please give us a short introduction of yourself?
Sure. So I'm again originally from India. I was born and brought up Arai, if you guys know. And then I did my bachelor's in zoology from DJ Ruparel College through the University of Mumbai. And then I came in the US and studied and basically completed my degree in 2023 in Masters in Marine Biology from Northeastern University. Apart from that, I would like to say I'm a scientific diver. I like to do, fun things when I'm doing pretty much not work, but I consider my work also as a fun activity and like a fun outgoing thing. So yeah, that's pretty much about me.
And today we also have our editor in chief with us. So, please introduce yourself, Harsh.
Okay, so hi everyone. Hello to all our audience. I am Harsh Bokadia. I am the editor-in-chief for Volume 6 of Eureka, and I'm very glad that we are starting with our first ever issue for this volume. And I'm more glad that we have such an amazing expert for our interview for this issue. So yes, we are very excited for this interview, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah, I would
so
just like to say and thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity. So, more people could know about this particular field and get enlightened about what exactly marine biology is. So, thank you for that.
okay, so let's start with the interview. And the first question we have is, ma'am, your journey in marine biology has taken you from Mumbai, India, to the Three Seas program covering ecosystems in New England, the Caribbean, and the Pacific Northwest. So, what initially sparked your passion for the ocean and marine life? And how did these diverse locations shape your understanding of the marine biology?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I think I would like to enlighten two things that kind of like brought me to this particular subject. Firstly, I think growing up as a kid, I used to do a lot of things like how people do, like stuff like that. But when I used to be indoors, I think the most things that I used to do is either play games on my laptop or watch documentaries on the television. And back then, the only source of entertainment was watching documentaries or like of course watching any other things, but my source of entertainment was watching documentaries, and mostly it was nature based documentaries, and I was really interested to see different animals and like knowing the kingdom. But apart from that, I would also like to highlight that my father is also a wildlife photographer. So as he developed his his hobby and his way into wildlife photography, I think that is also how we kind of like me, my sister, and my mom also, kind of like got attached to what exactly wildlife is, or what exactly, being in environment is, and how to appreciate the nature in general. Because he would always come back from his trips, and we would always be very enthusiastic about what he saw and what's the story behind it, and like what was his point of view. Because I think it's really important, if you're seeing a picture generally taken by a photographer, or if you have to even understand anything about the artist, it's the best way to understand from the point of view of an artist, rather than you assuming things that, like, you have a very broad point of view when you're doing that. But when you listen through the words of who has done the art or who has taken the photography in this case, I think it was really, like I was really enthusiastic and happy and excited about what his backstory was, because when he was gone on trips, rather it be tiger safaris, going to the national parks, going to small bird trails, um, we wouldn't, like, if it was a very long trip, we wouldn't be able to contact with him much or like talk to him much, right? So when he used to come back was the only way that we could like sit together and look at everything and go through every pictures that he has seen. So I would say that, but the way that I think how I entered into this field is, any other Asian kid from born from 2000s and 90s. I was first gonna go and do aeronautical engineering. That was my thing, but I didn't score good marks in the exams, and I just thought, I'll just do my bachelor's in zoology, and meanwhile, I could still give my exams. But I think when I got enrolled into my university for my undergrad, I think that just, like the engineering part just took a back seat. And I think I just got more forefront into, being an environment kid, and like, just be out there and explore things. And I think I also fortunately got good mentors during my undergrad that kind of like supported me throughout this whole process. So yeah, that was also it. But I also remember going to a intertidal walk with Marine Life of Mumbai after like 2 or 3 months after we started to explore the intertidal shows back in Versailles, like me and my family. So I remember going with them, and that's when I think it kind of like, took it to a different level, and I kind of like took it seriously, is what I could say it. And I think that's how I kind of like over the period got developed into this field and thought I'll pursue a career in marine biology. Yeah.
We have seen your dad's photographs. I mean, the photographs that he takes, and they are amazing. Like,
Yeah.
amazing. Like, I don't have
Yeah.
any other
Yeah.
words.
He takes really, really good pictures, but yeah, I think, just because um I feel generation nowadays know how to show the art, or the, whatever things they have been doing in general life. I think he didn't had that medium to
Yeah.
do it. But I think he's trying, like any
Yeah.
of our parents. I think he's trying best to like show people what he love and what his hobby is. So I'm super proud of that.
Okay, so moving on to our next question. Marine biology is a huge field. So, what are some of the areas that you have worked on in marine biology, and also some other areas that other scientists are exploring today that are of global importance?
Sure, yeah. So, I think first of all, when we think about ocean, I just think that people just have a narrative that it's either too deep, there's nothing much at the end, and people won't understand or like won't study it too much because it's very vast. But I don't think that's the case. I think there are various fields that are included in marine biology, and it just depends on, again, what your interests are, what is your hobby, which type of area would you like to cover. If I have to talk about me, I think the tropical environment in general, which is, very warm and very nice, very crystal clear in terms of visibility if you're diving, I think would be like my really, like my favorite ecosystem to study on. Because I think I would say I would blame getting certified in Andamans and Nicobar Island has to like be one thing that, kind of like just stuck with me forever. But when I used to be in India, we used to explore the intertidal habitat. So intertidal is basically the area between the highest high tide and the lowest low tide. So if you ever on a beach, go on a beach, and if you basically catch an area which is like, you could see the rocks, and you could just walk over it for a period of time until the tide comes up. That's what the intertidal area is. So we started to explore, me, like my family, like a family of a four. So me, my mom, my dad, and my sister. So we started to explore the intertidal habitats in and around Vasai. And I think not a lot of people, like a lot of people do love oceans, but people really don't know what's at our shores or near our shores, or where just we are stepping at, right? We just see some crabs when we are going on a beach. We see some few worms, or like, some clams, jalapan, chimpla bolto
No.
basically. Um, so there are different things that we see, but people really don't know what's in the depth of intertidal. So even if you take one zone, which is the intertidal zone, there's a big ecosystem that lives over there, right? And then it again depends if which beach are you going on. So if you're going to a sandy beach, it would be a different environment as compared to if you're going on a rocky beach, because the animals living over there would be much much different, right? So that was like why one supreme most area that I have worked on is the intertidals of the west coast of India. And then when I came to my master's here in marine biology, I think the two most environments that I've worked on, or the regions that I've worked on, is in New England, which is like the northeast part of US, in the northern Atlantic, and then we have also studied the Caribbean. So I think the Three Seas program was kind of like a big stepping stone for me to kind of like explore the habitats which are in the ocean. Like, irrespective where you are, again, the geography would kind of like change what the organisms would be in that particular region, but you would just get a general idea of what's in there, right? So I think I have covered various topics, but like most of the areas that I've worked on is intertidal zone, the Caribbean. So I also dive, like I said. So we have also been going scuba diving. So I've explored the coral reef and the ecosystem in the Caribbean and the Pacific Ocean. And then during my master's thesis, I have worked on coastal ecosystems. So, in India, we mostly have mangroves or like wetlands, which kind of form the coastal or like somewhat the freshwater system. But over here, we have the coastal system as salt marshes, which are basically tall grasses. And I studied the water chemistry in those marshes for my master's thesis. So it's kind of like various topics that I've covered, but like you said, or you pointed out clearly, that as it is a very vast subject, people kind of like study very small topics, which basically takes the entire life, right? Like I know there are some scientists who study coral reef and the associated fishes with them. There is a like I think there is a ever growing topic of eDNA, wherein if I have to just give you a glimpse, people just take sample of the water, and basically when they do the synthesis, they would get to know which all organism lived in that particular water. So that's kind of like an overgrowing thing. But like you said, it's kind of like unstoppable. Like when it's similar to when you stand on a beach and you see the ocean in front of you. It's just vast, right? So I think depending again, where the particular scientist has a liking, what ocean he would like to study. I think there are various topics that people could cover, but some of them which you have heard maybe are coral reef restoration, coral reef ecosystem. Um, then when I came to the US, I got to know that there are other systems like the cold water system, and how the environment there is a little different. There are kelp forest, there is algae system that people study. So it's a very vast topic, but that's some of the things that I could think of right now.
What topic has captivated you the most? Like, what is your favorite?
Huh. I think like
Have I
I've
put
been
you in a
saying
trick?
to no, I think like I've been saying to a lot of people is like someone like everyone has kind of like have a favorite topic when they think of. whenever I sit and if I have to write something, it's all hazy to me. Like I still couldn't figure out what's like the most favorite of I could think of. Um, but I would say right now as I'm working in coral reef ecosystem, I think for now it would be,
Good.
coral reefs around the world would be like my favorite ecosystem to work on as of now. Yeah. But there is also one thing which is the marine sea slugs, which we call as the nudibranchs. So similar
Oh,
to how we have land slugs or land snails, we have similar snails in the marine ecosystem, which are again my most favorite organisms. And if I had to do something with them or study them, I think that would also be my favorite topic. So yeah.
Ma'am, you have mentioned that you are a scientific diver and you have been certified by AAUS, and you have
Mhm.
performed field work involving snorkeling and scuba diving for sample collection in various locations. So, what's one of the most challenging experiences you have had during underwater field work, and what's one of the most surprising things that you have discovered during this field work?
Sure. So I think, like you said, when you dive, there is a lot of things that would, basically create a lot of fuzz when you're doing things.
Yeah.
And it just depends again on what the situation could be on that particular time. As a scientific diver, again, there are various barriers until which you could do things and, perceive things. But while on my field work, I would like to probably highlight this one incident. There could be more, um, but if I have to think about a whole situation, or as a group, because we were studying and living together as classmates, because we had study abroad programs and stuff like that. That's how this 3Cs program has been made. Um, it was like our last term studying at the San Juan Islands, which is in the Pacific part, the northwest, the Pacific Northwest, closer to Seattle. If you guys have heard of Seattle,
Yeah.
or like closer to California or Washington State, if you have heard of that. So we were probably on almost on a few last dives that people need to get done after we come back and start our internship or master's thesis program. And we were a group of 16 or 15 classmates, and some of them were diving. I would say like half and half. Half were diving and half were just like staying on the shore and like observing things and like just enjoying the environment which is around there. Because there was also intertidal zone. There was a lot of seabirds around there. There are marine mammals like orcas and whales and sea lions which you see there. So that's how some of us were like just enjoying from the shore. And when you dive, there is always a point at which you need to be considerate about when exactly you're diving according to the low tides and the high tides that we see. And we we came to a point where we finalized the point, and we like the divers who were there, they entered the water. And after like 10 minutes into it, or probably 5 minutes into it, like mostly when you scuba dive, I'm not sure if you guys have seen, but you might have seen on Instagram and stuff. So when people kind of like do diving, you would always see like the bubbles on the top of the surface. And because of how the waves were there, like the waves suddenly after they enter, they kind of like turned choppy, and they were very different as compared to what normal waves would look like. And that kind of like triggered an instant in my mind that, or like anyone around us, sorry, not just me, that doesn't look normal. uh and when they were diving, we couldn't see the bubbles because of how the tides, or the ripples of the tides were. And we were very curious because 10 minutes into it, we couldn't see any of the bubbles from any of the divers. And then after some time, one of my classmate, she surfaced up and she said that the current is very strong, and it's so strong that it's basically pushing them, like even though if they are kind of like holding onto the rocks,
Yeah.
they're still not able to hold them. And like some of my classmates told me that they probably saw a marine organism getting actually detached from the rock and like going with them behind, right? So like we were just like, we were just curious what's happening, but this is like an after debrief kind of thing. So when we saw her and she signaled to us that it's a very strong current, and then a lot of my classmates starting to kind of like pop up, and kind of like surface up, and we could like hear them or see them telling us that the current is very strong and they are not able to come closer towards where we were. So it was basically like a curve, like a C type curve, and they were getting pushed like beyond that curve, like
Mm.
to a wall or to a seaside rocks, which we couldn't generally see what's beneath those. Uh, and after a while, one of my classmates luckily had a binocular with her, and from there was also like a very small, like a hill that you could walk for 2 minutes and you could just see a wide area. And she saw that one of my classmates is like really, really farther out, like probably more than like 500, 600 meters out of where we were. And we were very like scared, because that's like the very first time we are seeing something like that. And then luckily our professor, and also there was a like a person closer, because there were really good houses around there, and people generally here kayak and do stuff around with the water. So the man kind of like went to her and like used his kayak to let her basically help out basically. And then we had to call the boat from where we were in the labs, and they had to all pick us up and stuff like that. But that was like one very chilled and like very thrilled moment that I had. And it was very, enlightened to just see how the nature sometimes work. And we just kind of like miss the current timings by a really, very, very like really small amount, like just 10 minutes. And if we would have gone beyond 10 minutes, it would have been a perfect dive for them. But again, we were timed right, but sometimes it is the nature, and you really just don't have a control about it. But one of the most exciting thing that I would like to say that I got to experience, we were not actually doing field work, but we were exploring during again our master's thesis. Sorry, during our master's program, and we were at the Koiba National Park, which is basically in Panama, the Pacific coast of Panama. And it was our last day, and that is one of the places where you would find whale sharks. Have you guys heard of whale sharks? They are, yeah. So we were like almost on the last day, and we were just like finding them everywhere after our each dive and after our each snorkel that we did at Koiva National Park. And it was our last day, and probably our last time, probably just searching for them when we were in masters. So we were at a point, and we just like our boat drivers just stopped the engine, and we were just looking just by like sailing across the waves. And our boat, like, I think we were four of us, and there was one of our professor with us, Mark. And we were four of us, and we kind of like two or three of my classmates and me kind of like saw a shadow going back and forth on the surface. And whale sharks are like filter feeders. So filter feeders is something, if I have to like easily explain you, the shark has basically a net, which we call, and they basically kind of like do a scene. So they would just like take in whatever small organisms are there in the water and just basically eat them. So that's how whale sharks eat. So even though it is a shark, it doesn't have a, have a jaw, have a teeth that could bite us or do anything with us. But it is a very cool and largest fish in the ocean. So we got to see that shadow, and we first thought that that could be like a manta ray or like, any stingray basically. But when we went closer to it, and how it was behaving is like at one point we could see the shadow and then it was disappearing again, and then we could see it again and disappearing again. And we first thought that it could be, like a bunch of fish that could just like come up and like just move around. But when we saw them, when we went closer to them, is where we saw the spots on it. And that's how we kind of like, we were so curious. And then the boats were around us, like the other classmates, and we were like, shark, and, very excited with what we saw. And I would never, like, never, my memory would, even if I turn old, I don't think this memory would ever vanish from my head. Is he probably had a very big head, and he just like, he was first, suppose this is a boat, we are looking from either side of the boat, and he was probably over here. At one time, he kind of like just turned, he went under our boat, and we could like see his big head and like the spots. And I was like, I was in so shocked because I just remembered all of the times that I used to watch on the documentaries that why do people just hype this situation up and like, oh, it's a whale shark and like, but I think I just got the hype and that would forever stick with me. I think I have a picture right over here um with it. So this is a picture that my classmate Cassidy took, and this is me over here. Um And the other thing, when we got into the water, I was the last one to enter into the water because I was just grabbing my camera and stuff like that. And by then, people have already, enjoyed the view and whatever was in there. And when I entered, one of my classmate, Ashley, she was like, I first thought that, it's gone because I couldn't like see it. Uh, because everyone was just like still in the water, and I just thought like, I just missed it, but it was still fine. But I went closer to her and she was like, Pooja, you need to just like stop where you right are because it is right behind you. And I'm no kidding. Like, I'm no kidding. He was just like a feet of one or 2 feet away at max from me. And I could just do an eye to eye contact. And I was like,
That's a beautiful photo,
how
by
do I
the way.
come back from this whole situation? And like, how do I ever, or if someone has to ever erase this from my memory, I don't think anyone could. So that's like, I think would be my most favorite memory for now. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to our next question. Uh, uh, our oceans are facing numerous challenges. So, from your research uh, and observation, what do you consider the most significant threat to the marine biodiversity and the ocean health in India and abroad? So, what gives you the hope for the future?
Huh. Again, like you said, there are various topics that kind of like play a major role talking about the health of the oceans that we are seeing right now and just the environment in general, right? Like, if we just go to any environment and if we just take a look at it, we would just easily know what are some of the things that are basically threat to those ecosystems, right? Um, and as every ecosystem, let me just say this, as every ecosystem around us is very complex in terms of what is involved in that whole ecosystem. I think, again, there are various factors which kind of like create this complex network around the health of the ecosystem. Um, and I would say, depending upon which region are we at, which country are we living in, there are different threats or different things that we could think of when we talk about the ocean health of that particular region. But, I would say right now, climate change has been a big one. But again, I would like to say climate change due to anthropogenic impact. That means human induced climate change, I think, is one of the biggest thing that is, kind of like deteriorating the health that we have right now. And that just includes everything, right? Like not having proper disposal of the waste that we are seeing, not sticking to the standards that we have in terms of the water quality levels and stuff. So there are various things that you could talk um, about the practices that people follow when they are fishing and stuff like that. When you buy local food, or when you are a seafood lover, which food you should rely on, when and how you should consume that particular food. I think there are various things that we could think about when we sit together and talk about the ocean health, and I think few of these are some of the important ones. uh and when you just like take a scroll through Instagram, you just get to know, like you said, in this ever challenging times, what keeps you encouraging is, even if I feel we see pictures, we see videos, we see research talking about the ocean health not at all at its best, but meanwhile, I also see research which people are still doing, working as a community, working with the community which is over there, um, doing research which, even though might not be useful 10 years from here, is what people might think. But I think like if we just sit now and think about oceans, I think even though the ocean health from say past 50 years have been deteriorating, we are still using research from that particular time to still think about what it could be now. So I think that just keeps me going in the field that I am on and in. And uh, yeah, just even though if I dive, if I see a ecosystem which is, say, for coral reef for now, if I see it's bleached and, not looking good, but on the other side, somewhere on the earth, there's also another ecosystem which does look healthy and nice. And um, I think everyone who works in this field ever wants to restore what we have or what we had before. So I think that just keeps me going and keeps me, rooted to where I want and what I want to study. Yeah.
So, can you give like few tips that we as normal individuals can follow in order to sustain the ocean health?
Sure. Again, I would not say I'm like super good at answering this question. Not just because, I don't think I'm capable enough to do it, but it's just like I feel I still need to gain more experience and in order to understand what the field of marine biology is. And as an early career researcher, I think it's difficult to narrow these things down to just like know what and how we could do it. But I think the one thing that I have just known in this past 6 years, 7 years that I've been studying or like being in this particular ecosystem is just getting to know the community or the people around you. And I think a lot of people have very bad misconceptions about the ocean, about the life there, and how we couldn't do anything. It's just the government and the people. Yes, they do have a very important role in taking the decisions, but I think we as individuals could also come up together and support something that we rely on, right? Like water is something that we are covered by 70% of by water, and I think that's one thing that we could always rely on. Even though we are big, we are small, we are old, it doesn't matter. I think just knowing and having the knowledge about what we have been given by the Almighty. I just think people just underestimate what we have as natural resources, and you just need to be respectful about the nature we have gotten and how and what's the best practice to kind of like sustain it. So I would just say, being in community, having talks like this and letting people enlighten about the subject, I think that's also one of the key way that you could basically try to work not on the conservation part, I think, but sometimes you just need the talking to happen, and the rest is history. And we have various examples on that, and I think yeah, these are some of the ones that I could think about. But there are other stuff. You could join different organizations, to volunteer, to do some work, to create outreach teams, like how you guys have a team in every college. I think every college in India could have an outreach team, because I see that in the US is like every university that I go to, they have an outreach team where people, they kind of like, just general public, they just invite them, have them in their conversation, show them what's the field and the ecosystem is about, and just get them excited about the field. I think a lot of it comes from the understanding that people don't know a lot of about the oceans. Like, of course we know that it's there, but we don't know how it functions, right? So I think that's just really important to probably have organizations like maybe you guys have, and just be a voice to something that could just like highlight the issue. Yeah.
Ma'am, along with research, you have spent a lot of time on outreach and education. Why do you think it's important for marine scientists to share their work with public, especially the young students?
Yeah, and like I said, right, in the previous question is, a lot of people don't know, sorry, a lot of people don't know about what's around us. Like, I would just take my example, right? Like when I saw the documentaries when I was a kid, I always thought that you need a crystal clear blue water to have a perfect ecosystem for the oceans. But when I saw the work of Marine Life of Mumbai, which is a non-profit organization in Mumbai, and they do intertidal works, they have also their research team and all different kinds of stuff that they do. But one of the things that they did is, and they still do, is take people on intertidal walks, and let them explore the shores in and around Mumbai. So that is how, like I got to know, or when I started exploring intertidal, I got to know that even in the murkiest water, like if you have been to Vasai, if you have been to Bhuigao Beach, if you have seen the waters there, it is very muddy. You would not see a lot of stuff, and it's just because how the topography or how the geographic region in that particular area is. There are rivers from the side which brings in a lot of sediment and stuff like that. But I also thought that there's nothing, on the beach first. But when we got to explore, we saw small corals, which are stony corals attached to the rocks. We have a oyster reef in Buigao, so that's the reason you would see a lot of sediment inflow and a lot of murky water there. But apart from that, there are different stuff. We see sea snakes, we see cuttlefish, and this is just, I'm talking just about Vasai. We see, what else I have to say? You see almost every organisms that you could see in normal water if you're observing an ocean. We see octopus, we see cuttlefish, um, we have seen sea slugs, we have seen different kind of algae, eels, snakes, fish, mostly everything. But like I said, when I first went, or when we first saw the intertidal, and when I look at the post which Marine Life of Mumbai has, you would get to know what's right outside the marine drive that you sit at. Like, what's at Charladi? What would you see at Juhu Beach? What would you see at Gurgaon Beach? What is uh, not basically shown or not basically seen is how you would discover things, and I think that's when I actually got to know that, oh, even though we have the most polluted water, even though we think that we don't have the marine life around us, it's right there, just 100 feet from where are you standing and sitting. So I think that's one thing that kind of like is a good tool to let people get engaged in this kind of stuff. And when I came here, I think the outreach experience just kind of helped me to just see how much knowledge difference people have, or how much unfamiliarity people have with the oceans. And I think this is one important tool by which you could guide people to the right way and let them know about, what's truth and what's not, what's the misinformation, and which are the resources that you could rely on if you're thinking about the oceans. So yeah, I might have missed some parts of your question when I was talking, but I hope I did answer all of that.
You covered pretty much everything. Uh, so, you have contributed to the citizen science initiatives, engaging local communities in marine ecosystem monitoring. Was the most memorable community involvement project that you were a part of? And also, on that question, what is a citizen science initiative?
So, sure. So I would first start with the later question that you have. What exactly is citizen science? So how it is named is basically what's the meaning is any citizen of any country could be participant of science, even though he doesn't have a degree in it, even though he doesn't know what it has done. So citizen science often involves citizens like you and me to get involved in research, and that could just mean that you're taking pictures of that research and uploading to the portal that the scientist has made, or some of the websites have made, and just create like a repository means just a collection of everything, just to get a better understanding of what's there in that particular region. So I think Marine Life of Mumbai, like I would highlight, right, they have created, or that is the most biggest citizen science organization that I know as of now in India. And they have created this various projects on iNaturalist, which is like again a citizen science web tool, and it's an international website. So you could, if you just are curious what's in the area around me, around Boston, you could still see it. If you want to know what's in Europe, you would still see it. And it's not limited to a specific organism, right? It is a very wide tool, and it comprises of anything on land, on sea, on air, in air, sorry. So that is one tool. And then Marine Life of Mumbai has created certain topics like intertidal biodiversity of India. So you would get to know what we see on the intertidal coast of Mumbai and India. And similarly, many such tools that you could see. But I think like I would like to highlight is when we explored the intertidal areas of Vasai or in around Vasai, I don't think a lot of people were doing that, or people did know that that exists, but not a lot of people were actually collecting data based on that. So me and my family, almost every probably we started at 2018, and until now my family still goes out, collects data, see things, capture in their camera, and just upload where people could see things are there. So that's one thing. But the other thing that you asked is what is one memory that I would like to highlight, or I got in good experience with. I would like to start from India. I was maybe share. I'll just share one experience that is from India. Is one of the time, like several times we used to go explore the intertidal areas back in India, and there were the fishermen's, which you would mostly also see at Juhu or something, where they go outside and then they basically pull the net, which is called seeing. So they were doing that, and in that net you would see prawns, you would see tiger prawns, which we are most famous for. You will see various different fish. You would see the sea snakes in there sometime caught in that particular trail. You would see cuttlefish, sometimes lobsters, anything that they are looking for, basically. You would see puffer fish in there. So there was this one time where they did that, and by now they had known me and my family for probably 2 years, more than 2 years, and every time we go there and see them, they would always ask what you're doing here. And it took time, to explain what we are exactly doing, because they thought that apart from the fisherman community, no one actually enters the ocean. And if I sit back and think about it, that's really true. Like, I don't see a lot of citizens going, in and around the beach and exploring what's there, or getting to know what's the organisms found there. uh so this was this one time, and then it kind of like developed over good community engagement and friendship with them. So there was this one time where their grand childrens were with them, and they were very enthusiastic about what they will see, right? And luckily that was one of the time that I was there and I got to see them. And I have this one picture with me, and there were three of them. There was one girl and two boys, and each of them is holding an organism in their hand. So one of them is holding a tiger prawn. One of them is holding a puffer fish in his hand, and then the other one, probably some crab or something. And I think that has just like stuck with me forever, that how much of an impact you could have if you're working in a science like this, or in a citizen science initiative like this. And then I got to tell them and showcase them some of the pictures that we had, my dad had clicked, and we have seen uh what's the name of the organisms, because the all the names that they have known are, they have the common names, like every part of India or like every
Other
part around the
locations.
world has a particular name to that particular fish or a crab or a prawn. And those were the names that I got to know from them, which their grandparents have told them and the fishermen have told them. And I got to share the names of the organisms that they were there. So I think it was just like a good coordination and engagement, that I got to also learn from them, as well as they got to also know what I'm doing. And maybe that way, even if they don't think about science, maybe whenever they visit ocean, they would think about, oh, someone studies them, and this is really important for us. So yeah.
Uh, Ma'am, you have been a marine biology student in India as well as out and abroad. So, for students who are considering a career in marine biology or any scientific field, what are some of the skills or mindsets that you believe are essential for success and making a positive impact?
Nice. That's a really nice question. I would say, just starting with being involved in organizations like this. I think one thing that I got to know is, back in India, between our semesters, or when we switch years, like when we go from first year to second year and so on and back forth, we really, like, the vacation time we have, we just utilize it to have fun and, like, go around, visit places. I'm not saying that is not what I encourage. Like, I love traveling and going around in places, and spending time with my friends and family. But the other thing that you could also do is get engaged with organizations which you have an interest with, right? Like just sending an email. And I think right now it's so digitalized that people could just email me and like know what I'm doing. And if they want, I could have a conversation with them. And I think just reaching out, making that first step of reaching out, sending an email, and getting, even if you don't get a response, but at least you have that satisfaction that, oh, I reached out to this particular organization. And when, in future, if you see a member from that team in any event that you have now, you have college events, right? Like, people get invited everywhere now. And if you get to see them, if you got to talk to them, you would definitely pitch in your idea, like, hey, I wanted to work in, and I sent it an email but no one responded, is there a way that I could work, and stuff like this, right? So just being, uh, again, I would say, and you should be very respectful about what you're doing and respect others' time, and just not do something for fun. Like, of course, we do fun things, we do side quests, but just getting to know. that everyone's time is valuable and respecting that, but also pitching your idea and pitching your effort and your excitement about that particular topic. But the other things that I think nowadays that I see a lot of people doing is, when I was in my undergrad or in my college, I didn't give a lot of importance to any softwares or coding languages. And I like I think the most thing that I would think about is the MSCIT and like things like that that people used to do back then. But I think now it's a very open platform. Like you could just go on Google, you could just go on any website and learn any courses, get done with courses for free through your organizations and stuff like that, right? So just be involved in those courses, getting to know new things if you are enthusiastic with it. Learning new coding languages, learning software, because when I came over here, I got to know that there are different softwares that you could always rely on if you're doing science, if you're doing analysis, and it's not always feasible to hire data analyst when you want to work on a very small data set. So just also having, being skilled in almost every part of the field that you want to be in. I think that's really important. I would highlight those two things, and just be involved in work like this whenever you have free time. Like, I think nowadays free time is just considered just going out somewhere, having fun with friends, which again is a really good thing to get out of the cycle. But again, you could spend a day or a week or maybe 2 days a week doing something that you would like to do for your future self, right? Like you should be thinking about all of these things when you're doing something or pursuing a career. Yeah.
So, ma'am, that was our last question for the interview round, and now we are going to be moving on to our second round, that is the myth or fact round. So, I
Hmm.
will be giving you statements, and you have to tell me whether it is a myth or a fact. And if it's a myth, please correct it. Okay.
Okay, sure.
So, let's begin with our first question. Is it a myth or a fact that many people believe that deep ocean is a cold, dark, and almost lifeless void? Is this true?
I would say it's partly true. It's definitely cold, it's definitely dark, but it's 100% not lifeless, right? There are various organisms that stay down there, and if you just like look up at any ocean documentary which talk about the deeper depths of the ocean, you would know which organisms stay over there. So I would say it's a partly myth, partly fact. But yeah, it's definitely cold down there because you're deeper, you're more closer towards the curve and stuff like that. But no, it's not lifeless. You would see different organisms down there, very different ecosystem as compared to what we have on the surface. So yeah, you definitely need to know more.
Our second question is, most of the plastic pollution found swirling in our ocean comes from people throwing trash directly into the water from beaches or from boats. So, where does it really come
Again, I would say it's partly true, because even though people do that, I would not say that's the only reason that we are having the pollution, right? Like, if you just take a step back and if you talk about waste disposal in general, are we good at managing that? So I don't think so, right? So I would say it's a myth. But again, you should be thoughtful about what you're doing, and again, be mindful about what you're throwing out there, because that's just gonna come back with you. And we see that at our beaches every rainy season. You might be seeing that now. So just be thoughtful about what you're doing. But I would say, having proper waste disposable management, I think that's the really key important factor here that plays the role in the pollution, if I have to just talk about trash pollution. Yep.
from? Only the large, impressive marine animals like whales, dolphins, and sharks are truly important for maintaining healthy ocean ecosystems. Tiny creatures, they do not play a significant role. Is this a myth or?
No, no, that's a myth. Because if we just go back to our school, and if every one of us has studied the food pyramid that we have, right, the triangle that we had of the food energy and the energy pyramid, we would know that all of these organisms that you mentioned are apex predators, huge organisms that stay at the top of the cycle and the pyramid, right? uh, but that is not how it works, right? There are marine organisms, marine plants like the algae, the phytoplanktons, which are the basic components of the marine ecosystem. If I have to just talk about marine ecosystem, right? And if we compare that to a land, if we talk about trees, grasses, that's the baseline of uh, the land ecosystem, that the terrestrial ecosystem that we have, right? So similarly in oceans, it's really important to also have those baselines, and that's how you kind of like build on it. It's similar to if you're building a house, you should have a base for it, right? And definitely whale sharks, the apex predators, the sharks, the whales that you were talking about are at the very top, so consider that as a terrace of your building, right? But no, you definitely need those pillars, you need those baselines. You need that roof to kind of like stay on top of it. So that's an entirely myth. Yep.
Moving on to the last question, there is a phenomenon that is known as the sea turtle crying. So, when you see a sea turtle crying with what looks like tears, does it mean that they are upset about something?
That's a funny question. No, it's a myth. It could it could be true if it's an animated movie, but that's not raw. That's not true. It's a myth. So in like sea turtles, like they are reptiles. And we have a process. If you just talk about any animals, every animal has a process called osmoregulation. Osmoregulation is basically you kind of maintain the ions and the salt level in and around, basically in your body, right? So similar to that, reptiles have that system as well. And in order to excrete, because they also drink a lot of salt, they like when they are having food, as they're surrounded by ocean, the water is going to come in, and in order to basically excrete the excess salt, I think that could be one of the reason that the phenomena exist. But it's definitely not related to tears. I would say it's definitely salt tears, but not tears from any emotions, like how we humans do. So yeah.
Okay, that was the last question. And finally, do you have a message for our audience?
Yes. I would just like to say, studying in this field and being in this field for so long had just made me realize that you should just be respectful about what environment is around you. I think a lot of people don't think about it when we are looking at the nature in just that sense. So just being respectful about what's around you and keeping the importance where it should be, rather than just like just having that as a backseat. I think that doesn't help a lot in a long run. And lastly, I would just say just be hopeful about whatever career you choose. Like I feel when I started with marine biology, or even now when I when I sit here and talk to you guys, you might think I might not have heard about things which people talk in terms of, oh, that's not a good career, you would not earn money through that, or what it's gonna do to you, or like how is it gonna help to the earth in general. But um that is not how you should pursue with it. I think you should just listen that and take that as the motivation that you would need to continue and excel in your career, and just do what your heart desires. If you think I could be a better engineer than a doctor, just be it. I thought I would be a better marine biologist, or maybe someone working for the nature, or encountering wildlife, as compared to probably being an aeronautical or any engineer as of now, right? So just pursue what your heart desire. And as far as you have a support system behind you, I think, I'm sitting here, I'm doing things that I do for research, but I know there are various compromises that my family, my siblings, and people around me have done in order to make me a huge success, right? So um, just being mindful of that, just knowing that that is always there and it's gonna always be there with you. I think that's really important. But anything apart from that, and anything that could just hinder what you're doing, rather it be thoughts, rather it be people, rather it be situations around you, I think that should just be at the doorstep and not closer to you and in your heart. So just just stay with that, be kind to everyone around you. And I think, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was so insightful talking to you and this interview, especially. I think it's a very apt that this interview is our first for this volume. Harsh, anything
Oh,
you'd like
thank
to
you
say?
so much. It was so fun to meet and given this opportunity to to talk about the science that I do and how did I had come into this whole thing. Of course, I now see when I just when we just came to the end of it, I just like now see what are different things that I could have talked about. But that's again, like you said, right? It's a very vast topic, and it's related to anything, right? Like we take any topic and it's gonna be bigger than we think. But yeah, again, thank you so much to you guys, to your organization for giving me this opportunity. And I hope I could do more things like this, and you guys could do more things like this in future.
Harsh, anything you'd like to say?
Oh, the interview was amazing, ma'am. Like hearing all of your experiences about the water, it was just I kept replaying that ZNMD scene of scuba diving and how like it is so surreal and magical. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think this interview is kind of like that. And the entire time I was thinking of what are the things that I could do to be more informed about the marine ecosystems. And one of the things which I felt, oh, okay, so we have this thing where we go to the beach and see sunsets. So an additional step that we could do is maybe explore the ecosystems around it and, get informed about it and as well spread awareness about it as well. So yeah.
No, but I would like to say I'm a big sunset shipper. So if I see sunset, if I see a full moon, if I see a moon blooming, I would stop and explore, like stop my exploration and look at that. Like I have done that various times, but that like you said, it could be just one day when you are exploring stuff, and then the rest of the days you could
Yeah.
just watch sunset, or vice versa, anything that you would like to do. So
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you could take that from this interview. What about you, Vibha?
Thank you
I
so
would
much,
I
ma'am.
would be interested to know about that.
Okay, so while talking to you, I remember this one specific memory that I have. So I think 8 years back, me and my family, we had been to Mauritius, and there I had gotten the chance of doing that underwater walk. Not exactly like a scuba thing, because that requires training, but this
Yeah, like the
underwater,
sea walk.
yeah, sea walk. And I just remember the moment I was inside the water, I could not hear anything, nothing. There was this
Yeah.
pressure and everything. I just remember like the world went quiet and I could just remember the fishes and everything. Oh my god. Like I think that is one of the best memories ever. That was one of my core memories. And when I'm talking to you, that's all that I can remember. That blue water, Nemo-like fishes, that corals. I mean, I still have those corals that I had gotten from back there.
You
Yeah,
shouldn't. So it's okay.
I know, I know. But those are the reef
Yeah,
corals
that's
that
I think
come to
that's
the sea.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really important to say, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel a lot of people don't know that, and they would just collect things from the ocean straight away. But just be respectful. There's a reason that it belongs over there. But definitely you could have some collections if you're not, not doing it in a bad way. But yeah. just being respectful about what you're doing for sure.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. I think this is the right point to end the interview. I think, yeah.